In the depths of World War II, while the world's greatest minds raced to unlock the secrets of atomic energy, there existed in the shadows of Nazi Germany a project
Extraordinary
so
power.
secret, so
Behold the future.
otherworldly in its
We must
ambitions, that
control
it would
it.
remain hidden for decades, a project that some historians believe could trace its intellectual lineage directly back to one of history's most brilliant and most misunderstood inventors. Nikola Tesla. Imagine a moment in time when two worlds collided. The visionary experiments of a man who claimed he could communicate with Mars, harness the energy of the Earth itself, and transmit power wirelessly across continents, and the
The
desperation
frequency
of
must
a
be precise.
militaristic regime seeking weapons so
Yes, the coupling is
devastating,
improving.
so revolutionary, that they could alter the entire course of human history. This is the story of Die Glocke, the bell, and the technological ghost that may have haunted its creation. We're diving deep into one of history's most enigmatic conspiracies, one that demands we ask the most fundamental question. Could a Serbian inventor who died in poverty and obscurity have inadvertently, or perhaps deliberately, provided the
The
blueprints for
Lord be
something
with
that
you.
was supposed
And
to
with your
change
spirit.
warfare? Before we
Let
explore
us
this
pray.
rabbit hole
Amen.
together, I want to ask you something. How many inventions do you think exist in our world that we simply don't know about? How many brilliant minds throughout history had ideas
Behold,
so
the
ahead
energy
of
of the
their time
future, unbound
that
by
they were either
wires.
suppressed,
This is the power that will
forgotten, or
change the
lost to the
world.
ages? This is not just a story about a mysterious bell shaped machine or a forgotten genius, it's about the collision of ambition, scientific truth, and the ruthless pursuit of power that defines our modern world. So let's begin our journey into the unknown. Because the truth, as they say, is often far stranger than fiction. Nikola Tesla was born on July 9th,
The present
1856,
is
in the
theirs,
small
the
village
future
of
is mine.
Shinjan in what
I
is
have
now
harnessed the cosmic
Croatia, and
rays.
from his earliest moments on this earth, he was destined to be different. His father was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a man of intellect and learning, and his mother, Duka Mandic, was a woman of remarkable ingenuity who, despite never receiving formal education, possessed an extraordinary mind for mechanical invention and philosophy. Tesla grew up during a period of tremendous intellectual ferment in Europe, a time when the very nature of electricity and magnetism was being decoded by some of humanity's greatest
The
scientific
signals are
minds.
aligning.
As a
We are
young
on the
man,
cusp of a
Tesla
breakthrough.
displayed an almost supernatural ability to visualize complex mathematical and engineering concepts in his mind, a facility that would later define his entire approach to invention. Unlike many of his contemporaries who relied on tedious experimentation and trial and error methodology, Tesla could see the solution to a problem
As
as
you can see,
clearly
this
as if he were
configuration
watching it
optimizes the
unfold
pathway.
before
I
his
see now.
eyes. This
Certainly. The
remarkable
next
gift
phase
would
is
make him
critical.
incredibly prolific, but it would also make him dangerous. Dangerous to those who could not understand his vision, dangerous to those whose power depended on controlling the flow of energy and information, and dangerous to a world that was not yet ready for the revolutionary changes he introduced. By the time Tesla arrived in America in 1884 with only 4 cents in his pocket, he had already filed numerous patents and demonstrated a commanding understanding of electrical systems that put him ahead of most scientists working in the field. His partnership with George Westinghouse and his development of alternating current technology represented a monumental shift in human civilization. Yet most people today know his name only in the context of the unit of magnetic flux density, unaware of the depth and breadth of his contributions to our modern technological world. But here's where the story takes a darker turn, where the Tesla narrative begins to intertwine with shadow and speculation. Throughout his life, Tesla made claims that seemed to exist at the very edge of human knowledge and the boundaries of physical possibility. He claimed to have invented a device he called the earthquake machine, a small oscillating device that could generate vibrations capable of disrupting structures and geological formations. He spoke of his dreams of developing a wireless transmission system that could send both power and information across the globe without any visible means of transmission. He suggested he had received radio signals from Mars, that he understood the nature of cosmic rays and could harness them, that he had discovered principles of energy manipulation that went far beyond what conventional physics of his time suggested was possible. These claims, which today might be dismissed as the fantasies of an eccentric mind, were met with ridicule and dismissal by the scientific establishment of his era. Yet, if we examine Tesla's track record as an inventor, we find something remarkable. Nearly every major technological advance that the 20th century saw had some connection to principles that Tesla had articulated, often decades before their practical implementation. The question that historians and scientists have wrestled with for over a century is this: what if Tesla wasn't delusional at all? What if his claims, while exaggerated or misunderstood by contemporaries, were grounded in genuine scientific discoveries that he had made but could not adequately explain to a world that was not yet ready to hear them? This is the crucial bridge that leads us from Tesla's life and work to the story of Die Glocke. In the closing years of the 1930s, as tensions mounted in Europe and Nazi Germany began openly rearming and preparing for what would become World War II, the regime's scientific establishment was desperately seeking technological advantages. The Nazi leadership, particularly Adolf Hitler himself, was obsessed with the idea of creating superweapons,
These principles
devices
will
and
light the
weapon
world.
systems that would
The
be so
answers lie in the rotation.
revolutionary, so unprecedented in their destructive capability or operational capacity that they would allow Germany to achieve total victory. The regime poured enormous resources into various secret weapons programs, from the V-1 flying bomb to the V-2 rocket, from nuclear weapons research to jet aircraft development. But there were also more esoteric programs, initiatives that existed in the shadowy margins of Nazi science, projects that drew on fringe theories, occult interest, and cutting-edge physics in ways that conventional historical narratives often overlook or minimize. One such project was reportedly centered around what the Nazis called Die Glocke, the bell. According to various witness testimonies, accounts from German defectors, and declassified documents, Die Glocke was described as a large, bell-shaped metallic object approximately 9 to 15 feet in diameter, constructed of heavy metals including radium and thorium, allegedly featuring a central spindle and containing some form of electromagnetic apparatus. The device was reportedly developed by Nazi scientists and engineers in one or more secret facilities, potentially in locations like Breslau or elsewhere in the depths of German-controlled Eastern Europe. Those who worked on the project or who claimed knowledge of it described it in terms that suggest the Nazis believed it could produce effects that ranged from the generation of powerful electromagnetic fields to the creation of localized gravitational distortions or possibly even the creation of a controlled miniature vortex of some kind. The functional purpose of Die Glocke remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of World War II, though various theories have been proposed. Was it an electromagnetic weapon designed to disable electronic systems? Was it an attempt to weaponize the principles of particle acceleration or energy manipulation? Was it meant to be a revolutionary propulsion system? Or was it something far stranger still? A device based on electromagnetic principles so advanced, so different from conventional physics, that its actual purpose remained obscure to all but its most closely guarded developers. Here is where Die Glocke and Nikola Tesla intersect in a truly compelling way. Tesla's work on wireless power transmission, his experimentation with standing waves and resonant frequencies, his investigations into the transmission of energy through the earth itself, these are precisely the kinds of theoretical frameworks upon which a device like Die Glocke could theoretically be built. Several researchers and historians have proposed that Nazi scientists, who were extremely thorough in examining the scientific literature of their time and in recruiting prominent scientists to their various projects, would have studied Tesla's work intensively. They would have had access to his patents, to his published papers, to the records of his experiments, and possibly even to direct information about unpublished research. Moreover, there is tantalizing evidence that German scientists did maintain an interest in Tesla's work and theories. After Tesla's death in January of 1943 in New York City, living in poverty and obscurity despite his revolutionary contributions to human civilization, the FBI seized his papers and personal effects. This seizure itself has been the subject of controversy and speculation. Why would the FBI be so interested in the papers of an elderly inventor who, by that point in his life, had largely faded from public consciousness? Some have suggested that the government was concerned about what foreign powers, particularly Nazi Germany, might do if they obtain Tesla's unpublished research and notes. This concern would only make sense if Tesla had been conducting research on projects that were considered strategically significant, research that went beyond the well-known public record of his inventions and patents. The possible connection between Tesla's work and Die Glocke operates on several levels. First, at the theoretical level, Tesla's principles of wireless energy transmission, electromagnetic resonance, and the coupling of electromagnetic fields with matter could theoretically provide a framework for understanding how a device like Die Glocke might function. Second, at the historical level, the Nazi regime was voracious in its consumption of scientific knowledge, and there is evidence that German scientists studied Tesla's work. Third, at the personal level, some researchers have suggested that German scientists or intelligence operatives may have attempted to contact Tesla during the later years of his life, seeking his collaboration or his insights. Though there is limited documentation of such efforts, and such claims remain largely speculative. Fourth, at the institutional level, the possibilities of Die Glocke's connection to Tesla's work raise questions about the flow of knowledge, the suppression of information, and the ways in which revolutionary scientific discoveries can be shaped by geopolitical and military interests. Now, before we venture further into this territory, it's important to establish what we can know with reasonable historical confidence and what ventures into the realm of speculation and conjecture. The facts we can establish with high confidence are these. Tesla was indeed a brilliant inventor who developed or contributed to the development of alternating current systems, wireless transmission principles, and various electromagnetic devices. Tesla did make claims about inventions and discoveries that seemed to exceed what was publicly known about his work. Tesla's papers were indeed seized by the FBI after his death. Die Glocke almost certainly existed as some kind of experimental device developed by Nazi scientists during World War II. The exact nature of Die Glocke, its intended purpose, and the extent of its development or testing remain unclear. German scientists did have access to publications about Tesla's work and would have been aware of his contributions to electromagnetic science. Where the historical record becomes much murkier is in the realm of the direct causal connection between Tesla's work and Die Glocke's development. We cannot definitively say that Nazi scientists directly copied Tesla's designs, or that they consulted with him, or that they reverse engineered his principles into a specific device. What we can say is that it is plausible, given what we know about Tesla's research interests, the Nazi regime's desperate search for revolutionary weapons technology, and the state of electromagnetic science in the late 1930s and early 1940s, that Tesla's theoretical frameworks would have influenced German scientific thinking about how one might construct a powerful electromagnetic device. The deeper mystery here is not merely about Die Glocke itself, but about what happened to Tesla's research after his death. The papers seized by the FBI are said to have been returned to Tesla's family after several decades, and many of them are now housed in the Tesla Museum in Belgrade, Serbia. However, questions have lingered for decades about whether all of Tesla's papers were returned intact, whether any sensitive or strategically important research might have been withheld, and whether the US government learned from Tesla's work in ways that its own post-war weapons development and scientific research programs. Some conspiracy theorists have suggested that Tesla's most advanced research was directly incorporated into classified US military programs, that his principles of electromagnetic manipulation informed the development of weapon systems that remain classified to this day, and that the truth about Die Glocke was suppressed because it represented knowledge that both the Nazi regime and the Allies wanted to keep hidden from the rest of the world. These are speculative claims, certainly, but they are not entirely without basis in historical precedent. We know from declassified documents that the US government did engage in extensive scientific intelligence operations against Nazi Germany, that it did capture German scientists after the war in the famous Operation Paperclip initiative, and that it did incorporate captured German research into its own weapons development programs. Is it implausible to suggest that information about Die Glocke and its theoretical foundations might have been part of that knowledge transfer? Not entirely. Let's examine more closely what we know about the development of Die Glocke from the limited historical record that exists. Various accounts suggest that the project was developed under the auspices of Nazi scientific and military leadership, possibly involving figures like Kurt Debus and others in the German rocketry and weapons development establishment. The device's construction and early testing allegedly took place in Breslau and possibly in other locations in German controlled Eastern Europe. The materials used in its construction, including radioactive elements like radium and thorium, suggest that the Nazis believed that nuclear or radioactive properties were essential to the device's function. This detail is particularly intriguing because it suggests that whoever designed Die Glocke was thinking in terms of nuclear science as well as electromagnetic science, a combination that only makes sense if one is trying to create some kind of effect or weapon that involves both electromagnetic and nuclear principles working together. Witness testimonies about Die Glocke vary widely. Some accounts describe it as producing a visible electromagnetic aura or plasma corona when activated. Other accounts suggest that it generated intense heat and radiation. Some testimonies speak of it being transported by train for testing in remote locations. Some even claim that experiments with Die Glocke resulted in unexplained deaths or illnesses among test subjects and nearby populations. These accounts, while often fragmentary and sometimes contradictory, paint a picture of a device that was unprecedented, that represented a radical departure from conventional weapons technology of the period, and that was powerful and dangerous in ways that even its developers may not have fully understood. Here we encounter a critical intersection with Tesla's work. Tesla's late life claims about his ability to transmit energy over distance, to create standing waves in the earth itself, and to manipulate matter through electromagnetic means. All of this could theoretically provide a framework for understanding what Die Glocke was attempting to accomplish. If a device could indeed create powerful electromagnetic fields in a resonant configuration, if it could couple those fields with matter, if it could be constructed with materials that enhanced electromagnetic effects, then in theory such a device could produce effects that seem almost magical, effects that go far beyond what conventional weapons of the period could achieve. This is where the story of Die Glocke and Tesla becomes not merely a historical curiosity, but a profound question about the nature of scientific knowledge, the responsibility of scientists, and the ways in which revolutionary discoveries can be weaponized and suppressed. Tesla himself was a man of complex political views and motivations. He was a Serb who lived much of his life in America, and while there is no credible evidence that he had any direct connection to Nazi Germany or that he would have supported their regime, there is also evidence that Tesla's later life was characterized by increasing isolation and financial desperation. He was living in poverty in New York in the years before his death, moving from hotel to hotel, dependent on the hospitality of hotel management. His work had fallen out of favor in the scientific establishment. His grand ambitions for wireless power transmission had not been realized. Is it possible that during these years someone, representatives of a foreign power, for instance, might have sought him out, offered him resources or patronage in exchange for access to his knowledge? It is certainly within the realm of possibility, though evidence of such contact remains elusive. What we do know is that Tesla's later published writings and statements suggest that his mind was still active, still exploring new ideas and developing new theoretical frameworks. Even as his circumstances grew more desperate, his ideas about the transmission of energy through the earth, about the sensitivity of certain materials to electromagnetic induction, about the resonant frequencies of the planet itself. These were the kinds of ideas that could have captured the attention of scientists attempting to understand how one might construct a device like the Glocke. Now let's explore some specific technical connections. Tesla's work on the Tesla coil, a device for producing high-frequency electrical currents and high voltages, became a foundational element in the study of wireless power transmission and electromagnetic radiation. A Tesla coil creates a resonant circuit that can amplify voltages and generate powerful electrical discharges. If such a principle were scaled up, if it were integrated with radioactive materials, if it were configured in a bell-shaped resonant chamber, one could theoretically create a device that produced incredibly powerful electromagnetic effects. Furthermore, Tesla's work on standing waves and his theoretical framework for understanding how energy could be transmitted through a medium without visible wires or conductors could provide the conceptual basis for a device that worked not by conventional electromagnetic radiation alone but by inducing resonances in the surrounding matter. This is speculative, certainly, but it is informed speculation grounded in actual scientific principles and Tesla's documented research interests. The radioactive materials allegedly used in Die Glocke's construction add another layer of complexity. Radioactive materials emit particles and radiation that have electromagnetic properties. If one were attempting to create a system where radioactive decay was coupled with a resonant electromagnetic cavity, one might theoretically be able to convert the energy of radioactive decay into directed electromagnetic effects. This is far beyond anything that the physics of the 1940s would have easily explained, and it's certainly beyond what any documented historical account of Die Glocke explicitly claims. But it represents the kind of theoretical framework that might have guided the device's designers if they were working from principles derived from Tesla's work and contemporary nuclear physics. As we dig deeper into this mystery, we must confront the question of why Die Glocke has remained so obscure, why so little is definitively known about it, and why declassified information about the device has been so limited. One possibility is simply that Die Glocke was an experimental failure, that the Nazis poured resources into a device that simply didn't work, and that after the war, nobody had much interest in documenting the details of a failed weapons program. Another possibility is that Die Glocke did work, at least to some degree, and that both the American and Soviet victors of World War II had excellent reasons to keep it secrets, to suppress information about what it could do, and to incorporate its knowledge into their own classified research programs. If Die Glocke represented a breakthrough in electromagnetic weapons technology, if it represented the application of theoretical principles that could be weaponized in truly revolutionary ways, then the victorious Allied powers would have every incentive to keep it secret from the rest of the world and from their Cold War adversary. This would explain why, even decades later, information about Die Glocke remains fragmentary, why documents are still classified or unavailable, and why the full story has never been told in any official historical account. The connection to Tesla becomes more intriguing when we consider the broader context of post-war technological development. In the decades following World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in a desperate race to develop new weapons and technologies. The United States had access to captured German scientific knowledge through Operation Paperclip and other intelligence operations. The Soviets did as well, and in fact, there is some evidence that Soviet scientists were particularly interested in electromagnetic weapons research in the Cold War period. Some historians have suggested that certain Soviet weapon systems, particularly electromagnetic weapons and directed energy weapons, may have been influenced by knowledge captured from German sources or derived from understanding German scientific work. Tesla's papers and research would have been valuable to both sides, both as a source of theoretical knowledge and as documentation of research that might have been lost or destroyed in German hands. We must also consider the possibility that Die Glocke was not entirely a German invention, but represented a synthesis of ideas from multiple sources. German scientists were brilliant, but they were not working in isolation. There was cross-pollination of ideas, transmission of knowledge, and awareness of research conducted in other nations. If German scientists were aware of Tesla's work, and they almost certainly were, they would have integrated those ideas with their own understanding of electromagnetism and nuclear physics. The result could have been something that was more than just a copy of Tesla's designs, but an evolution and weaponization of his theoretical frameworks. This is what makes the story so compelling. It's not just about one man or one device, but about the ways in which scientific knowledge moves through the world, gets transformed by different contexts and purposes, and ultimately shapes the technologies that define our civilization. As we move toward the closing part of this investigation, let me pose a question that seems to grow more relevant with each passing year. What other knowledge might have been suppressed or hidden during the Cold War? What other scientific breakthroughs might have been classified for military purposes and kept from the public? What other connections between brilliant inventors like Tesla and military weapons programs might exist in documents we have never seen? The story of Die Glocke and its possible connection to Tesla's work is important not just because it's intriguing or mysterious, but because it raises fundamental questions about the control of knowledge, the militarization of science, and the ways in which human civilization has repeatedly chosen to weaponize its most promising discoveries rather than using them for the benefit of all. Tesla himself was acutely aware of these dynamics. Late in his life, he spoke about his regrets regarding the potential weaponization of his discoveries. He had hoped that his work would usher in an era of unlimited free energy, that wireless power transmission would liberate humanity from the constraints of traditional power generation and distribution. Instead, he watched as his work was incorporated into weapon systems, as his greatest hopes for human progress were subverted by the demands of military power and geopolitical competition. We can only imagine what Tesla would have thought had he known that his theoretical frameworks might have informed the development of a secret Nazi weapon, that his intellectual legacy would be twisted toward purposes of destruction rather than liberation. The evidence connecting Tesla to Die Glocke is in the final analysis circumstantial. We cannot point to a document that proves Tesla designed Die Glocke or consulted on its development. We cannot identify a chain of communication between Tesla and German scientists working on the device. We cannot definitively say that principles directly derived from Tesla's work were incorporated into Die Glocke's construction. What we can say is that it is historically plausible that the pieces fit together in a way that makes sense, given what we know about Tesla's research, about the Nazi regime's desperation for revolutionary weapons, about the state of electromagnetic and nuclear science in the late 1930s and early 1940s, and about the post-war patterns of scientific knowledge transfer and suppression. The bigger picture here is that Die Glocke represents a moment in history where cutting-edge science intersected with military imperatives in ways that continue to resonate through our modern world. The questions it raises about classified weapons programs, about the suppression of scientific knowledge, about the militarization of research and development, these questions are just as relevant today as they were in the 1940s. In our modern era, we're seeing the emergence of directed energy weapons, electromagnetic weapons, and other systems that exist at the frontier of what conventional physics suggests should be possible. We're seeing increased militarization of space-based systems and the development of weapons that might influence weather patterns or create effects that seem almost science fictional. We're also seeing an unprecedented level of classification and secrecy surrounding weapons research, with significant portions of military and defense research existing in dark spaces that the public never sees. This historical context makes the story of Die Glocke and Tesla not merely a fascinating historical mystery, but a cautionary tale about where the pursuit of scientific knowledge without ethical constraints and public accountability can lead. In conclusion, while we cannot claim with certainty that Nikola Tesla was directly responsible for the design of Die Glocke, or that Nazi scientists explicitly based their work on Tesla's research, the circumstantial evidence, the historical context, and the alignment of Tesla's theoretical interests with the properties attributed to Die Glocke all suggest that Tesla's intellectual legacy may have played a role in one of World War II's most mysterious weapons programs. What's certain is that Tesla's contributions to our understanding of electromagnetism and energy transmission provided a theoretical framework that could, in the right circumstances, be extended toward the development of revolutionary and potentially devastating weapons. What's also certain is that the full story of Die Glocke remains hidden, that many documents remain classified, and that we may never know the complete truth about this device or its connections to the broader history of scientific discovery and military weaponization. So, how did you like this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries? Do you think there's more to the story of Die Glocke than the official historical record suggests? Do you believe that Tesla's work had an influence on Nazi weapons development? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating and enigmatic topic, so please drop a comment below and share your perspective. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already because we explore more incredible stories that sit at the intersection of history, science, and mystery. Stories that challenge the conventional narratives and invite us to think more deeply about our past. See you in another video.